Chet ate peppers. Structure lesson. Instructions. Watch the video lesson to understand how this grammar structure works and how you can use it to communicate more efficiently. Hey there! Welcome to the new structure lesson in this module. Today, we will look at the use of the simple past tense when communicating in English. Now, if you listened to all of the mini stories in the previous module, then you should have a feel for how this works because all of the POV stories were in the simple past. So, now we are going to break this down for you and explain how this works. We'll start off in this lesson by talking about the use of the simple past. Introduction to the simple past. The simple past expresses an action in the past. This may have happened only once or more than once. We can also use it for actions taking place one after another. And you can also use it in the middle of another action. So, the use of the simple past does not indicate how many times an event happened. It only tells us that what we are talking about occurred at some previous point in time. Now, there are two ways to form the simple past tense. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Using did to form the simple past. The very simplest way to form the past tense is to simply add the auxiliary verb to do in its past form, which is did. Remember that the auxiliary verb simply tells us what tense we are using. We eat pizza, simple present. We did eat pizza, simple past. So, this is great for beginning English speakers who are unsure of the correct conjugation of a verb in the past tense. If you aren't sure on how to conjugate a certain verb, you can use the auxiliary verb. Now, obviously, it's not the most elegant solution. So let's talk about the actual conjugation of verbs in the simple past. How to conjugate regular verbs in the simple past. Most verbs in English are regular verbs. This simply means that you add ed to the end of the verb to conjugate it into the past tense. We walk to school, simple present. We walked to school. We did walk to school, simple past. There are thousands of verbs in the English language. I didn't try to count them, but I did Google it. Google didn't know exactly how many either. But anyway, there are a lot of them. The good news is that most of the verbs in English are regular verbs. And unlike the simple tense, you don't have to do anything different for the third person singular. I walk, he walks, simple present. I walked, he walked, simple past. So, they are really easy to conjugate as long as you know it's a regular verb. How to conjugate irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are a whole different story. They are irregular because there is no set way to conjugate them. That's kind of the point of being irregular or not regular. Simple present, run. Simple past, ran. Simple present, go. Simple past, went. Simple present, buy. Simple past, bought. Simple present, know. Simple past, knew. Unfortunately, you will just have to learn how to conjugate these verbs as you go the hard way. That means you will have to learn them by trial and error, like young children do, or actually studying them. You find all kinds of irregular verb lists online. According to Google, there are over 619 irregular verbs, which may sound like a lot. However, the good news is that many of those verbs are not commonly used or outdated. So, you don't have to worry about them. Here is a good list of basic yet common irregular verbs to get you started. Listen for them in the stories and in your day-to-day contact with the English language. As you assimilate them through the stories and actual contact with the language, you will gradually master them and be able to use them well. Examples of regular verbs. I looked out the window and laughed. Jason stayed up and worked all night on the project. Carol and Barbara walked to school in the rain. Examples of irregular verbs. I went to California for an important meeting. Jason was a very good friend of mine. Carol and Barbara made a big mess last night at Nicole's place.